back to the Sad Dad Games podcast. I'm Shan.
I'm Eric.
And I'm Lundy.
We're on part 4 of Spider-Man, Marvel Spider-Man, and we are part 5. Oh, wow.
Right.
And
part 5. I've said this before. I make the thumbnails for all the YouTube videos, and that's the only reason I know what episode we're on is because part 5, I think. Yes. Okay. I just checked. Part 5.
There's, I'm thinking about Parks and Rec. There's a second book, and a third, and a fourth.
And a fourth.
No effing way. He's talking about Twilight.
Yes, Twilight.
No, Twilight. So we have decided we're going to make this into a smaller episode. Then we're going to do a final episode, and then we're going to probably try to smush all the DLC into a shorter episode as well. So we kind of have 3 left, including this one.
We didn't want to feel rushed talking about the finale, so we're going to have a little bit of a shorter episode leading up to everything right before the finale, and then we'll have another probably a little bit of a shorter episode talking about just the finale and the final fight and stuff like that. So, yeah. Because, there's so much good stuff in the finale. We don't want to rush that. We want to make sure we've got enough time to talk it all out.
Yeah. And we're going to milk it. Just like we did with The Last of Us.
Yeah.
And that's Spider-Man's nipples.
Yeah, the spider milk. Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah, his teats.
You can't call them teats, man.
Yes, you can.
You can't do that.
That's how
people are listening to this. Ugh.
He needs to do that every day. That's canon. That's how he gets the juices for his web. That he has to secrete it every day.
Just milking Tobey Maguire, getting the organic webs.
This is how Shan does his humor. Is he just always doubles down? You can never. That's why you can never fact check Shan, because he just doubles. If he's wrong, doesn't matter. If the joke is bad, doesn't matter. Doubles. You just keep doubling down until it circles back around to being funny.
Next,
commit to the bit.
Exactly. I know it's not funny. I find the next thing. I keep going, and then when I know it's not funny, I find the next thing to not be funny until it becomes funny again.
Shan's secretly not very funny at all. He just kind of keeps going, and then
until somebody breaks, and then I think, okay, there it is. It's funny now.
Please stop talking about Spider-Man's nipples. Let's move on to the next thing. That's how he gets you. Yes.
And so everybody's kind of like webbed up to the walls with like this milky secretion. You think it's webs. You think it's from his butt, but it's actually from his teats.
I don't know how I feel about saying teats on the internet.
You should feel great.
Feel great about it.
I know that Spider-Man feels great. He is very erect.
All right. Okay. I feel like we've milked that joke for as much as we can.
Hey!
All right. So for the first bullet point of our Peter's journey today, we're going to be talking about he gets a call from Doc Ock that's very excited. Says, come back to the lab. Or actually, he doesn't get a call. He just is like, I should go back and check in on Doc Ock. I don't remember the circumstances of why he's going to the lab. Either he gets a call or just feels like he should go back. But he goes back to check on Doc Ock, and he gets there, and Otto is very excited, and you see these 2 arms come out from behind his shoulders. And this is the first time that we see Otto with his big, scary-looking prosthetic Dr. Octopus arms. How did you guys feel the first time seeing that? That just like when they come kind of snaking around from behind his back, and they with their little clampies.
The first time I saw it, like the very first time playing through this game, he's standing there and he looks pretty normal, and then those things, kind of sneak around, and it's like, those are huge.
They're very big.
How was he hiding that from view? Like, just standing there waiting with them, like,
he's just
perfectly positioned,
silhouetted, yeah.
And then because they're so big, and it's like, how did I not see those until literally like right now when he does the cool reveal? Like, it's a very cool moment, but like in practicality, that's he really went to a lot of effort to make sure that he, it's like, oh, Peter's coming in, just like
he practiced in the mirror a bunch of times before Peter came.
Exactly, yeah, like had to get the angle just right.
Yeah, I was excited for this reveal because although like the original Spider-Man 2, right? The original Doc Ock as I knew him, because I didn't really engage with the the comics. Like he was a fantastic villain, and over time I got other Spider-Man movies, and I like Toy Story, I decided I don't want to play with you anymore, and I kind of moved on. And I, in my head, I had thought that they weren't good anymore, and I moved on. And I think I mentioned this before, but like I get to Spider-Man No Way Home, and I realize when they come through these portals, oh, they did mean something to me, because here I am nearly in tears to see Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, and they made me remember that they mattered, and all of those movies mattered again. And so seeing Doc Ock here, it was like a powerful, like it was a juxtaposition of like Alfred Molina when he gets his Doc Ock arms in Spider-Man 2, which is another very powerful, very cool scene. It's so campy, it's so ridiculous, over the top, but it's iconic in Spider-Man 2, where they go full like horror, and he's like he's on the operating table, and it turns into like a slasher horror, and all these doctors and nurses are being flung around the hospital room and being cut up, and it's grabbing like saws and it's cutting them up, and they're all screaming bloody murder. And it's Sam Raimi at his absolute worst instincts, because of his what's that movie called that he first started with?
He's in a bunch of horror stuff. He's kind of like a horror.
No, his first one.
Did he do the Grudge? Was that him?
No. Sam. I've seen the movies. I know. Evil Dead. Have any of you seen the Evil Dead?
I have not.
Okay, they're the worst movies you'll ever see, but they're intentionally bad. Sam Raimi created campy horror. He created teenage campy horror.
Yeah.
No, I'd say Resident Evil kind of like adopted some of his nonsense, but you know, it was cleaned up over time. But like he created teenage slasher horror campy nonsense in the 80s, I think it was the 80s. And he just kept remaking these movies and kept making them more and more intentionally worse, because you realize that he had struck gold. The first time he made it, it was just bad. There was like even like a forest rape scene where the tree rapes a woman. It's just literally bad, right? But he just keeps doing it, and it's bad. It gets worse. I hope we don't. Who cares? We're not monetized. I don't know if that gets dinged, but so Sam Raimi, he
said grape. He gets graped by a tree.
He gets graped in the mouth. If anybody knows that YouTube video. So
good old whitest kids you know.
Yeah. So Sam Raimi has all these terrible instincts from doing all of these horror movies, and then he takes them into Spider-Man, and he goes all the way in on them. You've seen it again in Doctor Strange when he came and did that movie. Yeah. Which made it really hard, because MCU had established a new tone, and he's like, no, I'm going to do my thing. And it kind of ruined Doctor Strange for me.
It wasn't great. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't great. I thought I enjoyed it just fine, but it didn't blow me away. There was a lot of fun parts in it, but
yeah, I liked it.
Hit or miss.
But I know that the general consensus doesn't agree with me on that one.
There were parts about it that I thought were very, very cool. Like I said, it was like kind of an up and down, where it was like I think on the whole, I walked away from it feeling positive, but it didn't blow me away, kind of a thing.
Just didn't work with the other Doctor Strange movies. And the music fight scene, it's like, why would he do this when he has so many other more powerful ways to attack? It's just
they wanted to give Danny Elfman something cool to do with the music. Was it Danny Elfman did the music? It's just Sam Raimi. I assume it's Danny Elfman. Yeah.
Pretty sure Danny Elfman did it.
Anyway, huge tangent. It's just Doc Ock. He's really cool, and he's been reborn, and they've sleeked him up, and he's dressed to the nines. He's baller, and I get to enjoy him all over again. It's not as slasher, cool horror nonsense as Sam Raimi's version, but it's like I get to love him again.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of this version of Doc Ock, and I like his character design a lot. I think that the arms, like Lundy was saying, are very, very large, like circumference-wise. They're very wide and thick, like more so than we've seen in most iterations of Doc Ock. And so I think that that conveys an extra level of like power to his, to his octopus arms. So they have a nice little interaction, and they have a celebratory bit of champagne or whatever, and Otto asks Peter to like check the subroutines or whatever of the Neuralink, because Otto has officially started using like a chip that's linked neurally to his brain, so he's controlling the tentacles with his brain. It's not like what was it, the mind control hat? What did Tucker, was it Tucker that called it the hat?
No, I called it a hat.
You called it a hat.
The neural interface.
The neural interface hat. But this time it's not a hat. It's a chip that's implanted on the back of his head. And so Peter goes to check those things. And while you're doing those little science experiments, they keep failing. And you see that like, oh, this is going wrong, and this is going wrong, and this is going wrong. And so it's like, Peter's like, hey, this is bad. You got to take this off. Like, it could permanently alter your brain, and your brain is what is most special about you. You have such an amazing mind. Like, this could change your brain. Take it. Please stop. And so Otto lashes out at Peter, but then he's like, you're right, I'll stop. But then he sees a news report about Norman being Norman on the news, and he gets mad and turns his chip back on and is like, oh, I gotta kill you. And he smashes the TV and gets angry and yells. And I don't know what it is. The voice actor who plays Doc Ock in this game, I love when he yells. He has such a good, like, cranky, mean, like, kind of pained anger in his yell. I really like when he gets angry and loud and upset. He does a great job.
He does
with that.
anger so well. Even like the quiet anger, like the mocap. Like, I played the remastered version, and the subtle facial capture of his anger and the way he does the voice of it at this, like, it is very well articulated.
Yeah, there's this time through, this was the first time I've ever really like paid attention to it, or at least made like a conscious mental note of it. But like, his performance is such that like you can see when he switches from good Otto to bad Otto and back. Like, his voice is different for Otto versus Doc Ock, and it's the same person, and it clearly sounds like the same person, but the voice is different, and you can it just clues you in. It's a spectacular performance.
Yeah, there's like an extra level of gravitas and gravelly and like just like malice in his voice when he's being Doc Ock as opposed to Otto. So yeah, it's like it's a Gollum Smeagol kind of a thing. Yeah.
And kind of like places it at the top of his throat, and he makes it gravelly. Yeah. Also, it's clear later we find out that he knows that it's Peter, which you have to then decide at what point did he know. Was it as soon as he saw the suit, and then he just tries to cover? And so at what point is he playing this con? Was he protecting Peter at that point, and then later he does this switch where he becomes this alter ego Dr. Octopus, and so now he's hiding it for a different reason because he doesn't want Spider-Man to be onto him?
I personally think so. Eric's headcanon is, I think that the first time he sees Peter with the suit, I think that's when he probably puts two and two, or at least like maybe very shortly after that. Otto's not dumb. Like, I think that he very quickly puts together like, oh yeah, oh my goodness, Peter is Spider-Man. But then he covers it up to maybe try to initially Peter, to let Peter have that secret, to protect Peter and let him have that. But then I agree with you, Shan, as he's like kind of going deeper into this rabbit hole of revenge against Norman, that he's just like, oh, well, can't have, Mr. Spider-Man on my back. I'll just keep pretending like I don't know.
Because later at the raft, which we'll get to very soon, he discards Spider-Man off the raft, and you see him look backwards, and you see the body language that denotes that he clearly, obviously he left Spider-Man alive. He clearly knows that it's Peter, and he indicates that in the final scene. So he's known this whole time. He's leaving him alive. He's just saying, stop chasing me. I don't want you to come after me. I just don't want to kill you yet unless I have to. And so I think in this scene, because of all of this that I'm getting at, is he is just telling Peter what he has to hear to get him off his back, but he's already Dr. Octopus in this scene, and he didn't switch when he saw Osborn on the TV. That just, like, he was already going to go after Osborn. That was just for the audience to see him switch. But he was never not going to do that.
No, I think you're right. I think that from the point when Osborn pulls the funding, that's probably when Otto starts hatching a little something like.
Right, but he tells Peter, "Is like, okay, I won't do it. I'll be a good person."
Yeah, but
I think he's
shoo him away. Yeah.
I think he's lying at that moment. He was going to do it regardless.
Yeah, I think that's probably accurate. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So I think a very cool scene with Otto. We get that really neat interaction with, like, the first time where you really get to talk to Dr. Octopus instead of Otto. And then right after that, Peter is like, "Oh, I should, it's time to go check in on with May at Feast, kind of see how she's doing." And they have a nice little conversation. Not a lot happens. It's mostly just kind of to get some exposition. But you chat with May for a minute, and she asks about how you and MJ are doing. And then she goes, "Well, the key with, Ben and I was being honest. Does she, are you honest with her? Does she know the real you?" And at this point, it's just like, it's like a mother who knows that her son has a secret and is like trying to like coax it out of them without saying like, "Hey, I know you have a secret." Because it's just like, it feels to me like this is May being like how more direct can she be without saying, "Hey, I know you're Spider-Man." Like, and at this point, we don't know if she knows, but it really feels like she's like trying to like, talk to Peter about this.
Yeah, at the end, she has known for years.
Yeah.
And so, in retrospect, that's what she's really saying. Tell her that you're Spider-Man. But she already knows.
Yeah. So, I think that's a really fun little interaction with May, and it's a very nice little touching moment.
She's having this whole other conversation with him. And so he can play, like, after she passes, he can play all of these conversations with her again in his head, and it's like he has a second conversation with her post mortem, and it's just like, it's like a parting gift that she can give him.
Spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers.
Well,
it's okay. What? I think that anyone who even sort of listens to our show knows that nothing is, if you listen to even a minute, any part of the game can be completely spoiled. It's full of spoilers. That's what we're doing. So
there's only one game that we have. There's only one game that we have played as we were breaking the episodes, and that was Silent Hill 2. And we said that as we were playing it. Everything else, these games have been out for years. We're assuming everybody has played these.
And if they haven't, it's kind of on them.
Yeah, and if you haven't, go do it right now. It's a great game. Why haven't you played it? You dumb. Go do it.
I mean, really, like, if they've been listening, this is the 5th episode in the Spider-Man game. Like, you can't really be mad at spoilers when we're very close to the end of the game and you've listened for 5 whole episodes.
Oh man, I was totally going to play the game. But they spoiled it in the 5th episode.
After, nearly 12 hours worth of content.
Ooh,
now you're mad that something got spoiled.
Is there any Spider-Man show where Aunt May didn't know by the time she dies? She always...
In the Ultimate Spider-Man comics, Aunt May doesn't know. I mean, she doesn't die then, but she finds out in a way where she and then her and Peter have a talk about it right then, when she finds out. So it's not like she knows in secret for a long time kind of a thing.
Did did Tobey Maguire's Aunt May know?
I don't think so.
She says
I don't think so. No.
Okay, she dies without knowing. She does have that line. She's like, oh, she doesn't die. Oh, she get the Green Goblin comes after her, but she doesn't die. But she does have that line where it's like, everybody knows, and he gives that look, and he's like, but it's not about.
It's about you love Mary Jane, yeah.
But it was used for the trailer, I believe. I don't know why
Well,
like
of
something
course it
from
was, yeah.
20 years ago is seared into my memory.
Yeah, I don't know. I every time I
30
think about
years?
the old
No,
Spider-Man
25
movies,
years ago?
I think about Aunt May like on her bed, like saying her prayer, and then the wall explodes and she deliver us from evil, and Green Goblin finish it, and then he flies away.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And he was in No Way Home. Gosh, I wanted to give him the Oscar for that performance.
I have always loved Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin. I think he's fantastic in the Tobey Maguire movie. And then when they have him come back for No Way Home and be kind of the primary antagonist of that, it's just like, he's spectacular. We got robbed of like, I want so much more of him as the Green. We didn't get robbed. We got 2 awesome movies of him being the Green Goblin. But it's like, I could never have enough of his version of the Green Goblin. It's amazing.
It's so good. And
I didn't know he could do that.
one of my favorite little trivia tidbits about his version of the Green Goblin, and I remember like watching for it in No Way Home, and they did continue to do this, but his teeth,
Yep.
they gave him like some fake like kind of veneers for when he's Norman Osborn so that his teeth look straight and perfect and normal, but then when he's Goblin, those are just Willem Dafoe's normal teeth. Like they're all just kind of like there's gaps and
Snargle
like just
teeth.
kind of
Yeah.
and like they were like, well, these look pretty goblin-y, so like that's how you can kind of tell what mode he's in, is whether he's got straight teeth or goblin teeth, and they continue that in No Way Home, which I thought was great attention to detail.
So when the first Spider-Man movie came out, Weird Al released a song called Sling Us a Web, You're the Spider-Man, based off of the, like, sing us a song, you're the piano man. And there's one part in there where he's singing about Green Goblin. And every time I think about the movie No Way Home, I think about this song because he's singing about Green Goblin. He says, and you're wearing that weird Power Rangers mask, but you're scarier without it on. And it's because he's got such a goblin-y face anyways, where he's so good at this, like, crazy smile and these huge wide eyes. And so when they have him in No Way Home, and like that's the first thing they do with their version of the Goblin is they get rid of that mask. It's like, because he's scarier without it on. He's like, he doesn't need that. He's just like, he's got those crazy eyes and that huge smile, and he's fantastic.
I can't not think of Willem Dafoe's name without thinking of How I Met Your Mother, when Marshall Erickson says that Willem Dafoe sounds like his name is being spoken by a frog, then a parrot. It's Willem Dafoe, and I can't even do his impression, but Willem
All right.
Dafoe. I don't know.
I don't remember that at all. Yeah.
You don't? Oh, okay.
No. I don't remember most things about that show, probably because it's dumb.
Because the finale ruined the whole
Finale.
show.
Well, and I went back and I watched some of it just like after the finale, and I was like, I don't think this is very funny. Like,
Anything with a laugh
it's
track
not a bad
did not
show.
age well,
It's just
except Seinfeld.
not a good show. Yeah. Anyways, I don't have to give all my feelings about How I Met Your Mother, but yeah. So next up is we get to a really exciting part of the game, is the Rikers Island and raft prison escape. So as you're leaving, or as you're at Feast, there's like a thing on the TV that's like, Rikers Island is on fire. Everybody, it's bad times. And so obviously May turns around and Peter's just gone because, Spider-Man. And so you have this really cool set piece where it's just bedlam at the prison. Everything's crazy. There's like prison mates with rocket launchers, and it's a bad time. Like just crap is hitting the fan. Everything is terrible.
I remember the first time I was playing it where they're like, oh, they got into the armory, and then they come running out and they've got rocket launchers. And in my head I was like, why do you have rocket launchers at a prison? And then like right after I thought that, Peter says that in the game. And I was like, okay, I'm glad that they're acknowledging
Same
how
page,
ridiculous
yeah.
this is, because like in what instance would you need that? Like
to take down like the Rhino or something.
Well,
but that's the raft, not Rikers Island. Rikers Island is for regular regular criminals.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, that guy is trying to swim away from our island and get into normal society. let's shoot him with a bazooka.
Quick, get the rocket launchers. Dave is trying to swim to shore.
Like, it just
That's so
You know,
dumb.
like in the raft, like I could see it where it's like you said, Shan, like if it's the raft and like Rhino escapes, yeah, probably you might need a rocket launcher or two, maybe. But Rikers Island, where it's a bunch of normal dudes just hanging out, it seems
A little excessive. Yeah.
yeah, it seems a little over the top. Great use of taxpayer money.
Got to have all those rocket launchers. So you go and you beat up criminals around Rikers for a minute, but then originally it's like separate power grids. It's only Rikers, and then you beat up some bad guys at Rikers, and then Yuri's like, "Oh no, the raft it's bad there too." And so it's like, of course it is. And so you swing over to the raft, immediately run into Electro, and then have a super cool like set piece where you're swinging around the outside of the raft, and there's lots of really cool lighting effects from Electro's lighting along the water, and lots of fun explosions and things as you're chasing around. It's a very cool set piece, really visually fun and interesting and bombastic. And then you finally catch up with Electro and meet a bunch of other Spider-Man baddies, the Sinister Six.
Yeah, I want to say that, like, I mean, ever since Miles Morales, the lighting in Insomniac's games are
Something
I
else.
can't think of any game that like has beaten it. Can you think of anything with better lighting?
I mean, not off the top of my head, but yeah, I remember playing Ratchet and Clank, the newest one for PS5,
Yeah.
and just like there's one part where I just like paused the game and I looked at it and I was like, this is a Pixar movie. Like this is it's beautiful. Excellent lighting.
I want to say there's got to be. I think there was like one other game, and I can't even think of it off the top of my head that might have had something better. But like this time, I was playing the remaster of Marvel Spider-Man, and like later you get to the fire at Feast. The fire at Feast.
Fire.
It's a very
Very
weird place to go on fire, and like you see Spider-Man's webs being shot out, and there's subsurface scattering on like his webs, so you could see through that, and you could see the lighting of the fire through his webs, and then you could see that the warmth of like the subsurface scattering on his face and his eyes, and it's just like all this immaculate detail and how the lighting is playing off everything. And then, as you were saying, at the raft, just like all of these different points and sources of light and how they're all interacting with each other. It's insanely gorgeous how they all play off each other. And like I love Spider-Man has always been fantastic at using these like brilliant like neon vibrant colors, and it just like makes everything just shockingly beautiful. It lifts it as if from a comic book.
One of the other things with this particular scene, like, and the lighting really helps showcase this, I think. I love Electro's design. Like,
I was gonna say that. Yeah.
His comic book look is a little bit goofy. He's got this mask that's just got a bunch of lightning bolts kind of in a star, that pokes out. And I love the decision to make those lightning bolts like scars on his face. Like, it's such a great way to adapt source material and make it believable and realistic and a little bit more, grounded and less comic booky, and just it's perfect. Like, I am obsessed with his design as a character.
Yeah, I love the scar, because if you don't know like Electro's like silly yellow and green jumpsuit from the original comics, which like the light, it's like even weirder than Lundy points out. There's these big lightning bolts on his face, but then there's also these two lightning bolts that come down from his shoulders and point right down to his crotch. It's a very weird design. Like it's very classic, like silly early comics, very fun. But yeah, this new design, if you weren't familiar with the old design, you would just be like, oh, he's got crazy like lightning scars all over his face from like probably when he was doing lightning things. But they're like in that kind of star shape. So for those people who are Spider-Man fans, it's like, oh, hey, I know that. Like, I know why that's there. So I had that in my notes too, that Electro's character design in this game is really, really great.
I just remembered two of the games that I was thinking of. Horizon Forbidden West or Zero Dawn. Those two games have fantastic lighting.
Yes, they do.
Just, yeah. And Alan Wake 2 is also great.
I haven't finished Alan Wake 2. I need to go back to that one, but that was another one where the whole time I was playing the game, I was just flabbergasted by the lighting. Yes, lighting is spectacular. Like it's like it's unreal.
Yeah. And I know that I haven't played it, but Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, I know that is supposed to have great lighting, but
That game could have the
it's
best
not for
lighting in
me.
the world, and it would do nothing to excite. I just I don't like the Avatar movies. I think that they're boring and pandering, and I don't particularly like modern Ubisoft, and so I have zero cares about that game.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's
no
fine, but I
interest.
just doesn't do anything to interest me at all.
Look, I liked Pocahontas the first time I watched it. I don't need to see any of these remakes. Like,
Yeah. Blue Pocahontas
Blue Pocahontas.
with nippleless boobies.
Maybe it's not that game I'm thinking of. I know it has good global illumination, but it's open world, so maybe it doesn't have fantastic some of the best lighting. Maybe it's just good open world lighting. But Forbidden West probably has, Forbidden West probably has better lighting.
Both of those Horizon games have incredible lighting, both in like the external locations as well as like in the dungeons and things like that. It's just that's another one of my favorite game series. I love the Horizon games so much.
Yeah. I haven't played Forbidden West, and now that they've done the remaster of the first one, I kind of want to get the remaster and then play them both like back to back, just because I really liked the first one, but I don't remember a lot about it. It kind of I was playing a lot of games all at once, and so I need to go back to it.
I love the first one. Has one of my favorite stories in any game ever, but it did need a remaster because a lot of the conversations with the NPCs look like Disney animatronics. Like their movements are just really
face.
Yeah,
they just kind of stand there
and with the remaster,
poor lighting in the mouths and eyes, and so
one of the things that I really appreciate about the remaster of Zero Dawn is that they shot hundreds of hours of brand new mocap so that they could make those conversations feel more organic. And
dedication.
Like, yeah, they just went back and they were like, okay, this is what's going on. All right, well, here's a mocap actor. They're going to act that out, and then like we can animate the face, so like they just, it's a lot more believable and feels more organic and less stale when you're in those conversations.
Little tangent, but these PS5 remasters, this is definitely not mainstream opinion, but I love them because we need padding of content since we're kind of struggling to get that, and studios need money. And because like we've had so many whiffs lately and this allows them to train up their developers on like the latest engine updates of like Unreal and stuff like that. So getting them to go back to old games and update them is like a cheap and a risk-free way to get them trained up for the next generation game that they're going to work on. And
by the time they're all trained up, though, they're going to be releasing stuff on PS6. It's like,
yeah. So it's just
I agree.
like
I do like a lot of the remakes. I think it's fun to play old games, but with a shiny new coat of paint. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just something to like pad their release schedule because games are taking longer and longer to make. So it just like gives them a little injection of money. And guess what? You don't have to buy it. So you're not forced to buy anything. You're not entitled to their time for them to make something that you want them to make. I am so sick of gamers feeling entitled to studios' time and to their art, and for them to get everything that they want. They will do what they have to do to survive, and you can back off of them. This is the model that they have right now because because Gen Z is going to mobile. This is a do or die situation, and I am all for supporting them. And this is what they are doing right now to do it.
I agree with you up to the point of like live service games and microtransactions. That's the point where I'm like, no, I don't want that. Like, I don't want to.
Yeah,
those games, I'm gonna let them die off. I'm not gonna support that.
But like repurchasing games that I've already played or sometimes already owned, but like a better version of them. If I feel like it's enough of an effort and it's not like crazy expensive, then sure, I'll do that. The one exception I made,
$15 upgrades, yeah.
Well, the one exception I made to that rule is where it was like, it's too expensive, I don't want to do it, was The Last of Us Part 1. I paid the full $70 for that because I was like,
me too.
Same.
I think I just have to do it. Like, I think this game is so good and I've played the original version so many times that I want a new way. I want to do it again for a new way.
Well, and it was lost on people that it was like a full remake
From the ground up.
Huge upgrade. Like, it does, when you just look at screenshots side by side, you're like, yeah, that one looks better, but the other one's still fine. And the other one still is fine. But like, man, it's something else. I mean, we have a whole series about that, so you don't have to listen to us talk about it here. But
plus, they put the Dunder Mifflin office in there, so
in
the financial district in Philly, I think.
Anyway, should we get back on track to Spider-Man?
Yeah,
we're gonna have to split this into 3 episodes if we're not careful.
Do a Hobbit with it.
Yeah, just really milk it. Okay, so Rikers Island. So gross. I should have said milk it. That was my fault. I made a mistake. I'm sorry, everyone, that you had to endure that. So you chase Electro around for a little bit. You follow him to the top. It seems like he's luring you somewhere. You get to the kind of this top of this area on top of the raft, and then a bunch of other supervillains show up. Rhino is up there somehow on top of the building. I have no idea how they made that. Did they get a crane? I don't think Vulture is strong enough to fly him up there. That was my first thought the first time I played this game. I was like, how the hell is Rhino up here? Like, where are there stairs? Is there an elevator? How did he get up here? But anyways.
There has to be a ladder or something.
Something. What kind of ladder could Rhino crawl up? His feet wouldn't fit on the little. They'd have to like lift him up with a crane or fly him up there or like an industrial elevator. How is he up there?
I think my headcanon, because I haven't thought of this before, but my headcanon
really
that I'm making up right now is that Doc Ock just kind of scooped him up in one of his little tentacle arms and like cradled him like a baby and just like climbed up, and Rhino was just grumbling the whole way, and then he put him up there. Yeah, and then Otto just drops him up there, and he's like, okay, now you wait, and Electro's gonna bring him. He's explaining the plan to him, like just to make sure he's got it. Like, don't jump off. Like, you need to stay here.
I have to go. I put you up here, and I have to go wait over here now so I can make my dramatic entrance in a minute. But you stay here. When Spider-Man comes up here, you mess him up, all right? You confuse him with your mere presence on the top of this building.
Seeing how big and insanely intimidating Rhino is, who was it that played Rhino for like 1 minute in Spider-Man?
Paul Giamatti.
Giamatti.
Who looked at Paul Giamatti and was like, you're the Rhino.
You're the giant Russian. You're the Rhino. Oh my gosh. That was terrible.
I love
weird casting choice for sure.
However,
I love Paul Giamatti with all of my heart and soul, and it was just absolutely wrong to cast him in that movie in any capacity. Like, I love him.
Why are you here?
However, Scorpion, it was not what's his name? From Breaking Bad. No, from Better Call Saul.
He plays Scorpion for like 2 seconds at the end of Homecoming.
I was there for that.
I want to see his version of the Scorpion in the MCU so bad. I think
he's a
he'd
fantastic actor, and I'm not even getting his name, but Nacho. It was Nacho, right, in Better Call Saul?
Nacho.
It's like Nacho or Taco or
it's I don't know the actor's name either. Someone Shan, you can Google it while we talk about the next bullet point.
It has to be Nacho Varga.
Yeah.
Michael Mando, that's it.
Michael Mando. Yeah, I feel
he
so
would
bad
be
for
fantastic.
Him, but he's great. Yeah. So I'd love for them to bring him back and let him be a Scorpion. I think he'd do awesome. They just did an animated show on Disney Plus for Spider-Man, and they have Scorpion in there for a minute, and it's far and away the best part of that show. The whole show is like pretty good, not too bad, but they have an episode with Scorpion in it, and he's genuinely terrifying, very cool. So I'd love to see them kind of take that idea and implant it on that actor in live action. I think that'd be awesome. But anyway, so top of the tower, Sinister Six, Rhino, Martin Lee, Vulture, Electro, they're all, and a fifth one. Who's the fifth
Scorpion.
one? Scorpion, who we were just talking about at length. And they're all up there. And for a minute, Spider-Man is holding his own against like 5 of his most powerful villains, which is like kind of fun to watch. He's swinging around and he's flipping and he's doing stuff and being awesome. And then they finally start to kind of beat him down and subdue him. And then the big reveal, the crazy thing, Doc Ock comes crawling up the wall. And, oh, he's been behind it all. And they all kind of like, it's very clear that, you know, these villains are all reporting to him. And so you're like, what? He's the mastermind? Oh my goodness, mind blown. I didn't see this coming. And so very cool moment. And then he gives the warning that Shan was talking about where he says, you know, stay out of my way, and then decides to not kill Peter. So very cool scene. Really like this part.
Yeah, and he looks over his shoulder as he throws him out, and you can see he's a little forlorn. He's got a little bit of Otto still in him, but he doesn't want to kill him, but he doesn't want him in his way, and he will kill him. Also, this is random, right? This is from 15, 16 years ago. I had a friend who was really into Marvel comics, and he was just on one. And he was asking a bunch of us, like, what's the strongest Marvel villain? And he decided it was Rhino. And he tried challenging us on this. And he's like, for example, like, give me a superhero or a villain. And we'd be like, I don't know, Batman. He's like, nope, Rhino would just keep running at him. And then he'd be like, Spider-Man. Nope, Rhino would just keep running. And
Galactus.
Nope, Rhino would just keep running at him. You couldn't stop
right
him.
into his mouth.
Galactus's mouth, yeah.
Nope, you couldn't stop Rhino. He would just keep running. Like, he's unstoppable. And he did this for like an hour.
He is thinking of Juggernaut.
But no, Rhino could have unstoppable momentum as well, right?
No, I don't think he has the unstoppable momentum. I think he has a lot of momentum if he can get up going. But Juggernaut's whole thing is that he's like, once he gets going, you can't stop him. Rhino can be stopped. It's hard to because he's gigantic and wearing a big power suit thing.
And he looks like a rhino. Okay.
And he looks like a rhino.
It's just a stupid anecdote that I had locked away in my head. And it's not even that funny. But to me, it was.
I thought it was funny, just by the sheer ridiculousness of it.
He did that for like an hour straight, and we were all laughing so hard. He just
Magneto.
Running.
Was it someone I would know?
No, it was on my mission in Portugal. It was some complete idiot. He was so funny.
Oh man. Well, there you go. So yeah, this scene where I love the kind of look over the shoulder to like showing that there's still some concern for Peter, but his mission is more important. His revenge against Osborn is more important than anything, even though he still does not want to hurt Peter if he can help it. But then he goes to is it Times Square? Where does he go to release the Devil's Breath? I think it's Times Square maybe.
Yeah.
So he goes to Times Square with the canister of Devil's Breath and then opens it in the stupidest possible way. He puts it right in front of his face and then cracks it open with his tentacles, and then he puts on a mask. And I'm like, come on, Otto, you're a smart guy. You know that's not the right order of operations. Like,
also,
you do the mask first, and then you hold it far away from you, and then you crack it open. Come on, guy. Like,
we also just had like this whole thing where we had this microbial dispersal unit from Osborn that was necessary to release it into New York. And he's just like, nope, Times Square, crack.
Yeah. And it's going to crack it like an egg and dump it all over these people.
Like, yeah. That wouldn't
It's more dramatic that way. I don't know. But okay. That's like, Otto's brain is being taken over by the dumb tentacles or something. And he's not thinking straight. I don't know, but that's always like, I thought that was always funny. I've played this game a few times now, and every time he does that, I'm like, why is he holding it so close to his face? And why does he not put the mask on until after he's cracked it open? That's just a bad idea. Like, it's just, don't do that.
I mean, I suppose this could be effective. It would just be slower. This would be like a wet market in Wuhan situation.
Yeah, that's what Market Wuhan. That's
It would
what I
just be
was thinking.
slower, but it would slowly. There'd be a patient zero, and it would just escalate.
So, and you see that it does escalate pretty quickly. He releases the sickness, and then I think it's like, I mean, is it a week later? It's not very long after that. So, but very, very shortly after that, it shows like a cutscene of New York and everything. You know, people are getting sick. And it shows Aunt May providing relief effort, and she coughs into her mask and then pulls it back, and there's some blood on it. And this is the moment where everyone's like, oh no, Aunt May is sick. But you're like, that's okay. Peter's going to save her. Spider-Man's got it.
Yeah, she is. That's just cargo, as Leslie Knope would say.
His precious cargo. So this is, that's the first little inkling that we get that May is sick. But then, so let's see. Oh, and then it jumps to a little bit later once Peter is able to kind of like, so now there's a bunch of criminals in the city. Everyone that was on the raft, that was in Rikers, just a bunch of regular inmates have escaped into the city. Everyone that was on the raft has escaped into the city. So a bunch of supervillains and stuff are in the city now. And it creates kind of a new side event where there's a bunch of little like encampments of inmates running around the streets, and a lot of random crimes that you do now involve inmates and things. So it's an evolution of the Spider-Man formula where there's another faction of enemies. This is kind of like the third act of the game where you get these other, side quest kind of things with all of the inmates. So, and at this point, like New York is looking pretty rough. There's like some like smokes from fires kind of coming up everywhere all over in the distance. There's like garbage all over the streets, and there's like inmates running around, and it's just like New York is going through it. Like they're having a rough day.
Yeah, this is like New York now, according to the news.
This is the current day actual New York.
Yeah, it is very hard to swing through New York without getting shot at every 30 seconds.
Oh yeah, well, and this is the point too where like Sable is turned against you as well. They're like they're trying to hunt Spider-Man down because he's perceived as a threat, and there's a bunch of inmates on top of buildings with sniper rifles for some reason. And so it's like you're swinging around New York, and everywhere you swing there's like laser pointers at you all the time, and so it really messes up your flow of swinging because you're like at the very bottom of a swinging arc, and then you have to dodge, and then you lose all your momentum. And so it's like it just creates all of these like all these people with guns all over the place trying to murder Spider-Man for no good reason. He's just a cool dude swinging around. Like, let him be cool and swing around. Come on, bad
Everybody
guys.
has heat-seeking rocket launchers.
Yeah, and everybody
So
they got
many.
from the prison.
You get a rocket launcher, and you get a rocket launcher.
So this is also the point in the game where Yuri calls up Spider-Man, and she's like, hey, Rhino and Electro are causing problems. Please go stop them. And so you get to choose which one you go to do, Rhino or Electro first. You go to the Rhino mission, and you have to fight off. Basically, you get there, Rhino runs off, which is uncharacteristic for Rhino. He doesn't stay and fight, but then you have to fight off a bunch of Sable bad guys around. He just keeps running.
It's his thing.
That's all he does is he just keeps running. So he runs off, and then you have to fight a bunch of Sable bad guys because they're right outside this police precinct. So now once you do that, police precinct is saved. Everything's good. And you have to go off and fight Electro, who has super powered a bunch of generators around another police precinct to electrify the whole building so that all of the police are trapped inside. And you have to free those generators and break those generators so the police officers can get out. So you're kind of putting out fires all over the city being caused by these supervillains. And all of the while you're doing that, Aunt May and Miles are calling you like, hey man, there's a bunch of criminals at Feast that are like trying to hold us up, and everything's bad. And then once you complete like either Rhino or Electro, and then you're on your way to the second one, they're like, they're lit the place on fire, you have to hurry. And it's just this like chaotic situation where Spider-Man has three things he needs to do at the same time. And so he's just like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And then you have to, blah. And so it's this very frantic, like, because you want to just like leave. You want to just stop and help because it's Miles and Aunt May and MJ are all in the same place at Feast, and they all need your help. But there are these supervillains who have locked hundreds of police officers in like buildings and are threatening them. So it's like I wanted to just like leave the police officers and go help Aunt May and then go to the police officers like and help them. But the game doesn't let you. You have to do it in the order, and then you can go help May and Miles and MJ. So very chaotic, very tense setup. But then you get to this secondary, like the feast center, and it's just on fire. The whole building is ablaze. MJ tells you to wait, but you don't. You swing inside to go save everybody, and really cool. I love this scene. What do you guys think about like this part of the game? I think it's very cool.
Well, as I had said earlier, like this is where I was blown away by the lighting of the fire and the and how it played off of everything, the characters and the webs, and so I could barely pay attention to the set piece itself because I was just staring at all the smallest details.
I love this scene, like myself. Like I just think this is a great scene that showcases, you know, the three of them kind of working together, try to get themselves out of this building. But Peter comes in, provides some extra help so that they can actually get out. But it, you know, I think this was another great moment for Miles, setting him up for who he would become, because Peter starts to fall down into the burning building, whips up a web that Miles catches and pulls him up. I did this time have a thought about that. Like it's a great scene, it's executed perfectly, but part of me was like, why did the web go a certain way up and then like just die and start going back down? When we've seen him,
the web was
when we've seen him like just an episode or two before, like diving down in a giant elevator shaft and thwip all the way to the top of that and catch himself and be like, look what I can do. And
He can
like, did he just not push the button hard enough?
He
Like
was too tired and he couldn't push the button hard enough.
This is
and
no. This is like GameCube controller. This is pressure sensitive.
There it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, because, you know, that's like, maybe that's a thing. I don't know. Like, but it was just one of those things where I was like, like,
Yeah.
you know, it happened because that's what the story needed to create a good moment, you know, where Miles gets him just in the nick of time and pulls him up. But it was one of those things where I was like, that doesn't seem consistent with what we've seen earlier.
You know, it's funny when you're playing a game slowly and like paying attention and taking notes, how many little things you're like, why did his web stop? Or how did Rhino get on top of there? Like it's just this little like, how did that happen? But yeah, so I agree with Lundy. It's a nice moment that like it shows. It's because the reason it happened is because it's what we needed for Miles' character growth there. But yeah, it's a nice moment where Spider-Man, he kind of holds up this platform to help them get out and escape. Mary Jane helps, you know, create a bridge for Aunt May to walk across and get out safely, and then she's able to get out and Miles and MJ help Peter get out once he falls. And so it's this nice kind of like teamwork moment where they get Aunt May out, and then the three of them, who we, you know, Miles isn't Spider-Man yet, but we'll soon they'll become a team of three sort of a thing. And so it's a first little moment of cooperation between the three of them and a bonding moment. And yeah, I like it. It's very nice.
Well, this is one of Peter Parker's most essential things that he needs to develop in this story is he needs to learn to lean on others to help him. And that's why we have the schism between him and MJ on I want to be a partner and you don't let me be a partner, and if we can fix that, then we can be in a relationship. So she's acting as a foil to what is wrong with him right now and why he is currently failing at the ultimate task of taking down his villains. And in this scene, we see him almost fall, you know, to maybe his death. It seems unlikely, but to his pain, I guess. And he has to rely on somebody else. And it's a moment that clicks for him, is like, oh, if I rely on somebody else, I get farther and I can be saved. And now after this, we have this like little catch up moment with these people, and it's like, okay, let's do it. Let's be partners. Everything clicks. We are in this third act now of partnership, and we are going to do it together. And everything just starts clicking and humming.
I love the scene right after when they're all out of the burning building and they're all kind of chatting with each other. And MJ and Peter in particular have a really nice back and forth that I wrote down because I think it's worth kind of going through line by line, because I think what they have to say to each other is great. So they get out of there. They're sitting down on top of this roof. They're all safe. And this is like the first time that Peter and MJ have really talked since Peter saved MJ and she got mad at him for like ruining her lead and kind of lashed out at him a little bit. And he, you know, they kind of like, they butted heads a little bit about, you know, MJ wanted to be treated like an adult and Peter wanted to save MJ. And so they were both kind of like stepping over a line of what really frustrated them about the nature of their relationship. And so, but now they're here together and MJ's probably had some time to reflect and think about like how she and Peter interact with each other. And Peter has had some time to reflect on their interaction with each other. And so they have this really nice interaction where MJ starts and she says, it's hard always being the one that gets saved. Sometimes I want to do the saving, which is like a super understandable thing. If you're in a relationship where it's like, especially with them, where their ability to physically save people is so very different, that would be frustrating as MJ to be like, I want to save people too, but I feel like you're not letting me save other people.
Well, and this is something that like is there's I understand this in my marriage is because we try to approach our marriage with, well, like we give lip service to wanting a marriage of egalitarianism, but you know, the social pressures that exist say that I have the salary that I have and my wife gets the pay that she gets, which forces her to work part-time and to which forces her to work do house chores disproportionately. And so it just like forces us into these traditional roles that we say that we don't want, but we have to do in order to find a different kind of equality in our marriage that is basically traditional. And my wife just constantly feels like she isn't equal and that she has to ask for things and she wants to and it feels like what MJ is saying, where it's like, I don't want to have that. I don't want to be saved. I don't want to have to feel powerless financially or whatever, because society says that you have the power in this relationship, society wise. And it's like, it's hard to find ways to balance the scales so that we can find equality in different ways. But I feel this pain.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've been kind of on the flip side of that. When I was switching careers, I didn't have any income for a little while, and Liz was the only one making any money. And so that was a very hard thing to like, to feel like I needed to help provide for my family because, you know, we had two daughters we had both of our kids at that time. And I just wasn't making any money. I had finished like my training to get a new job and I was actively job hunting, but it's like, I just kind of sat at home all day and applied for jobs and, you know, worked on my resume and did small projects to kind of pad my portfolio and stuff. But it was mostly just like, I was just kind of at home, not making any money. And so I felt MJ's side of this too, where I was like, I want to help, but I'm not in a position where I can help. And so, but then, you know, I got a job and it kind of leveled the playing field and, you know, and so I get where MJ's coming from, which is sometimes I want to do the saving. But then Peter responds with, I think is the perfect response to that situation. He says, I'm sorry I made you feel like you couldn't. Because it's just like, in Peter's brain, he was just like, MJ's in danger, gotta save her, gotta keep her safe because I love her. I want to keep her safe because I love her. But in MJ's point of view, it was like, you're treating me like a child, I want to help too. Which sometimes she oversteps and gets into dangerous situations that she shouldn't be in. But like, so I just love this back and forth. He's like, I'm sorry I made you feel like you couldn't. He's like, this is Peter finally accepting, like, I need to let MJ help. She can really help me in ways that I can't help. So I need to let her help me because this is important to her and it's important to me to have the help that I need. And then he says, still partners? And she goes, always. And I was like, oh, you guys, why can't these crazy kids just work it out? So I like
I
the
think they're
conversation.
gonna make it.
I think they're gonna make it. I think it's gonna work out. But it's just so sweet and so nice, and I just feel like this was this moment where MJ realized that she can't help on the same level that Peter can, where she can't go in and bust up bad guys and, you know, physically save people the same way that Peter can. And Peter is realizing that MJ still has other valuable skills that she can use to help, and he needs to not maybe baby her so much, but trust her and let her do things in her own sphere for help that she's able to help. So it's this point where this friction that previously existed in the relationship, this is the conversation, I feel like, where their points of view is they understand each other's points of view, and that friction is released and they can finally start working together as a partnership. So very nice scene. And then Miles comes in and breaks the tension with like 20 different kinds of bottled water. He says, I have sparkling and flat and this and that. And
I didn't know which kind you wanted, so I got all of them.
Yeah, he
Classic
wants to
Miles,
impress.
yes.
He wants to impress Spider-Man, and then he also is curious if MJ is dating Spider-Man.
Yeah, he says, are you Spider-Man's girlfriend? That would be so cool.
But then at the end, we know that Peter is with MJ, and Miles knows this. So is that like, could he connect the dots there?
I think we'll talk about this probably in the next episode, but I think Miles connects the dots a little bit because of something that he does at the very, very end of the game. Miles is a smart kid. I think he connects the dots. Also, and this is something that's like I've thought about with superhero games like superhero media in general. The actor Yuri Lowenthal, who does Spider-Man, has a very distinct voice. I feel like the moment he speaks to anyone as Peter, like there's no way that if Aunt May didn't know before, after like Peter is in there in the fiery building saving him, he's like, oh, help, get out. And she's like, oh my gosh, that's Peter. Like immediately she'd recognize the voice of her son, you know, like,
yeah.
So, but I think
I totally
putting
get
that
the,
aside.
Yeah.
I think Miles could probably put 2 and 2 together with the whole MJ and Peter and Spider-Man thing.
Yeah, I totally get the whole Christian Bale Batman voice thing, and I don't.
I'm Batman.
I don't get why he got hated on. I actually thought it was really cool and really well done.
It makes a lot of sense. It's just really funny. Like that's
I'll
things
tell
are
you why.
true. Like,
I'll tell you why it was so funny in the Christian Bale movies. It's because the cowl that he had covered the bottom of his nose, and it made his mouth just look like this, and it covered his nose, and so he'd always go, and so it just like it made his mouth look funny every time he was like, where were the other drugs going? And like I agree.
The physical comedy.
It was very smart of him to disguise his voice, but it always looked funny. Like
yeah, and it like when he did it too, like, you know, because it scrunched like his face and cheeks and everything, like
puffy cheeks.
He would like try to be, you know, intimidating, and it would kind of like jiggle and like, but
that made him
like it still worked. Like it was memorable. It was spectacular, and like, you know, it made it so that like when they tried to give Batfleck like a voice like modulator that like changed
modulating, yeah.
I really hated that because it was like that just doesn't sound like just gargle marbles like Christian Bale was doing, like, you know, like, because I do think that having a distinct, like a separate voice, you know, just like you know, like makes perfect sense for what they're doing. Like if you're trying to protect a secret identity, I just personally hated the way that the Batfleck one.
Well, you see in the Spider-Verse movies, whenever Miles is talking to Jefferson, his dad, he's like, hey, I'm Spider-Man. He like puts on like a thick like Brooklyn accent and talks deeper. Maybe it's a Queens accent. I don't know my New York accents, but he's like, oh, maybe you should cut the kid some slack. He's like very like trying to sound like a different. So, but I think that's more for comedic effect than it is for actual, you know, storytelling, disguising of his voice. But yeah. I mean, if I was Yuri Lowenthal, I'd make an effort to disguise my voice because he has a very distinct voice, I feel like.
And, you know, it's possible that they didn't think about it earlier just because it's like, well, this is a superhero saving people that he's never encountered before. You know, New York has millions of people. So, like, the odds of running into somebody that you saved are literally, like, you know, millions to one. And so, like, people, it's only in the case of MJ and Aunt May and people like that that he would need to disguise his voice.
What about when he's on TV, or I don't know, he still should do it around those people.
I'm Spider-Man, because you can't do the deep voice thing. Batman already did that. He's like, hey, everybody, I got a thwip, it's webbing time. Well, because that was the sticky note in his apartment, right? Is like he needs a catchphrase. It's webbing time. And I feel like that would really work with like a, hey, everyone.
That's it.
All
right,
anyways.
let's keep going.
So they save MJ. They have this nice thing, and Spider-Man. Peter gives them all assignments. He says, "MJ, you go. We need to get the cure for Devil's Breath. It's in the safe house at Norman's, whatever." And he says, "Miles, be my eyes and ears at Feast. Make sure things are going okay there." And he's like, and they're like, "What are you going to do?" He's like, I'm Spider. What do you think I'm going to do? There's supervillains running all around. I'm going to go punch them. What am I going to do? And he goes and he runs off.
Throw them off buildings.
Yeah, I'm going to throw them off buildings and punch them in the face. And so then you have to go and track down where the Devil's Breath is. You do a little science mission. You follow the trail back to Otto's secret lab, and you find a bunch of cool stuff in Otto's secret lab. You see he's got little like dossiers and voice recordings on all of the other members of the why can't I say that? Sinister Six. And you see that he's kind of like not bribing, but like offering to help them with different things. For Gargan, for Scorpion, has a lot of financial debt. And he's like, I'll take care of that financial debt for you. You see a thing that for Vulture, Vulture, his wings have given him spinal cancer, and Doc is offering to develop a cure for him. For Rhino, he's going to get him out of his Rhino suit. And then for, who am I forgetting?
Martin Lee is just on.
Oh, for Lee, it's just revenge on Norman. He's like, I'll help you get revenge on. Oh, and then for Electro wants to become pure energy. And so he's like, I'll help you develop a suit that can turn you into pure energy. So all of these criminals have something that they want. And Octavius, being a brilliant tactician and being a very smart scientist, comes to them and says, hey, I can do all these things for you. You guys should help me. Let's get Spider-Man. Well, not let's get. I'm sure that he framed it as like, let's get Spider-Man, because they all also want that too. But really, secretly, he's like, let's get Norman. That's his ultimate goal, is he wants to make Norman pay. So let's see here. Oh, and this is also where you find out that you get a little snippet and a little inkling that Martin Lee and Otto have known each other for a long time. How long? We don't know. We'll find out later, maybe. But yeah. Oh, also, this was a cool thing. There was a like a little mattress in there, so he's been staying up there since he's kind of started being Dr. Octopus. But also, there is a wheelchair up there in his super high up rooftop secret lab. And that was another instance where I was like, why is this here? How did this get here? Did he wheel it up the air duct? Like, yeah, why is there a wheelchair in this room? And I know it was for visual storytelling to tell us that Otto's body is getting frail, but it's like, why is this here?
If there's a room in a building, there has to be a door or an elevator that goes there, right? It can't just be a room that exists.
Well, but it's not like a room. It's like there's like air ducts and stuff everywhere. It's like he's like hanging out in the whatever the I was going to say the upstairs crawl space, but the attic. Like the upstairs crawl space. That's how you can tell that I
it's a built out
from
room.
The south. It's the upstairs crawl space. I'm gonna call attics that from now on. The upstairs crawl space.
It's the building hat.
It's the building hat. Yeah. So you get a lot of cool information here. I really like the little snippets, the background that you get on all of Spider-Man's villains, and you kind of see Otto's plan starting to unravel. And then you find a map that shows like this and that and this and whatever. All of each member of the Six has a different target that they're going to hit for Oscorp stuff for different reasons. And so Spider-Man's ready to like, ooh, I got to go get this. We're going to do it. And then he sees something on the map about Icarus. And he's like, oh, well, Icarus is the main thing. And then as he's going to leave, he sees a case labeled Icarus. And he's like, oh, man, this is the key. This is the thing that was on the map. I got to get this Icarus thing. And then he opens it up and it's a video call from Otto. I like this part a lot because it shows how clever and how thoughtful and, backup plans that Otto has. Is he's like, he fancies himself a very smart person and doesn't consider for a minute that someone else could outsmart him. he's a genius and he's got a plan and it's going to work. Because Icarus isn't real, it doesn't exist. He gives Spider-Man a short monologue, and then he says, no, Icarus wasn't real. This was just to get you into position. And then the briefcase ticks down and is about to explode. Spider-Man jumps out and then is attacked by Vulture. And then and it's just like, Otto's got plans on plans on plans. He's like, here's my plan, and here are the 5 contingencies that follow it. It just shows that he's a very smart guy. He's got it. He's plotting, and he's like, this is important to him. He's going to make it work. So
was this officially his plan to kill him? Like, was this the one he crossed the line and he's done with him?
Maybe. Sorry, go ahead, Lundy.
I was going to say, I think it was a contingency where it's like, if Spider-Man finds this, then he needs to die. But I'm not going to lead him here. But just in case Spider-Man finds this, I have it set up like this is a booby trap. And if that doesn't work, Vulture's here to take him, so that's why he's got backup plans on his backup plans. He's got contingencies for, he's almost Batman level with all these contingencies that he's got set
almost up. No one is Batman level with the number of contingencies, but Otto's pretty close.
Okay, it's just interesting that Otto's already in a place where he's willing to kill Peter.
And I think it's
just so easy to him.
So what it is for Otto, that it's like Norman is priority target number 1. And at this point, I think he still probably cares about Peter. But anything that gets in between him and Norman is an obstacle. And and his hatred for Norman and his lust for revenge against Norman supersedes love for others. So even though he might still care for Peter and still want Peter to be okay, in Otto's mind, I'm sure he's like, I gave you a chance at the raft. I told you to stay out of my way because I didn't want to hurt you. But here you are getting in my way again, and now I have to hurt you.
You know what I think is missing for me is, I think why this feels disjointed is because in my head, they have such a deep emotional connection as father and son that I needed a story beat that specifically says, you did this to me, and that is specifically the reason why I am okay killing you now. And to have this moment where it's like, no, I was always okay killing you, makes it feel like, well, then at what point was that okay? Because it feels like you could ambiguously insert it at any point in the story before this, and we didn't get to see that happen, that transformation.
Yeah, I'll agree with you that we didn't get to see it happen. I don't think that it's just that Otto's always been okay with killing Peter.
I know that's what I'm saying is I wanted to see that transformation.
Yeah, but I guess that's fair. I think it's kind of implied that Otto has set up, he's got this plan, and it's like, if Peter comes and investigates my secret hideout, that's the point. Peter has made a choice. He's gotten too far into it. That's the point where it's like, okay, well, you're clearly not going to stop meddling. I have to take care of you.
Yeah, but you see my point, right?
I
want to see Otto get to the point where he's okay killing someone that is Peter.
Yeah, they maybe could have taken another story beat to flesh that specific motive out, but I think that it's there subtextually. But I agree, it could have been more specifically stated. Yeah.
I agree. Like, they could have probably added another scene in, but I feel like almost their interaction at the raft. It's the he almost gives it. He doesn't say this is your final warning, but that's in effect what he's doing. Like, I have you beaten and I am sparing you. Don't cross me again. And then he sets a trap where it's like, this is a trap. I'm not going out of my way to kill you, but don't, if you keep sniffing after me, this will take care of you. And that distances Otto from the killing still a little bit. Like, he is the one that set the trap, but he wasn't there present for it. He's not the one that that tripped it. Peter is. And so in Otto's mind, you can kind of distance yourself. When you have a rat in your house and you set out a trap and it goes in there, it's like, okay, well, it's dead. I didn't actively kill it, but my actions did,
Well, here's an example. when we saw Otto transforming into Dr. Octopus, we see his mentality shifting. For example, when you go to Central Park and you go to the Sable compound because MJ is there and you want to save her and get her out, you get a call from Dr. Otto, and you hear him starting to escalate the way he thinks about, you know what, instead of just prosthetics 1-to-1, this can be more. We can make people enhanced. We can make them better than. And you can see he's starting to rationalize worse things. And you see Peter like, I'm worried that he might be going too far. What could this possibly mean? And I want to see, I would have loved to have heard his thought process that gets him there on killing somebody like Peter. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I can see that. I can, like, an extra story beat,
or just his thought process. Yeah. Like, I want to hear his mentality shifting, his ideologies changing.
Yeah, it does kind of seem a little abrupt when you put it like that. I think that it's all there subtextually, but maybe a little bit more like explaining would have kind of helped it feel smoother.
I do think it would have been hard to do that without revealing that he knew that Peter was Spider-Man. You know, because putting it where they did, it carries emotional weight for that moment. Mm-hmm. And so I think they wanted to preserve that, you know, and give it the, like, Otto's still separating them in his mind. He knows that they're the same person. But it's one thing to kill Spider-Man, and it's a different thing to kill Peter.
Yeah. So how you maybe do it is, like, during the coolest fight scene in the game is on the side of the building. You maybe have that part of the conversation of how he gets there, because they're having a very emotional conversation.
Yeah, that's some next episode stuff, but
let's save it.
To talk about that. Yeah. So we love that scene with him, and so you have this really great fight with Vulture and Electro. I think it's very cool because they're both there, but you get to choose which one you engage with first. Or no. You fight Electro and you kind of learn his patterns. Then you fight Vulture and you learn his patterns. And then you fight them together. And then that's the point where you kind of get to choose which one you want to focus on and knock out first. It's a very interesting, dynamic fight that's scripted enough to kind of help you learn the things. And it has some very fun conversation. I can see Lundy smiling. I think that maybe we have the same bullet point that we want to talk. I'll take it away. I'll let you talk about it.
I mean, I just, the part that kills me every single time is when, you know, Vulture comes in and Spider-Man says, "Yo, Adrian, it's me, Spider-Man." And he's like, nobody ever gets my jokes. And then, like, Electro comes in right after, and he's like, "Spider-Man, I must break you." And he's like, "You got it. You got my joke." Like, and I just, like, it's a great way to include a Rocky reference. And I love the Rocky movies. I love the Rocky franchise so much. And just, like, that in there, just it tickles me so much every single time that, like, I audibly laugh out loud every single time, and it almost is enough to, like, throw me off my rhythm when I'm playing.
I just love that it's this perfect Spider-Man moment where the stakes are high. There's multiple supervillains just kind of, like, going crazy in the city. Things are not good, but Spider-Man still has time to make a joke and then be very tickled when the supervillain that he's fighting reciprocates the joke. He's just like, it's almost like this friendship that they're like between Electro and Peter, that they're like, "Hey, we're joking around. Oh, this is a great time. I'm having so much fun with you." A punch, punch, punch. Like, it's just this very silly interaction.
I know that Rocky is supposed to be the perfect archetypal, like, templated, formulaic underdog story, and it basically created that, and it's vaunted for that accomplishment, and so I do appreciate and love it for that. It is very hard to get past how cringe Rocky is towards Adrian. It's like how in Blade Runner Harrison Ford is towards that one lady when he gets a little rapey. Like, Sylvester Stallone gets a little rapey in Rocky, and it's very uncomfortable to watch, and it's hard to get past that.
It hasn't aged well. Like, it definitely has some problematic things in there, yeah, for sure.
But you cut that.
Do you guys want to
scene,
hear a secret?
The rest is fantastic.
Do you guys want to hear a secret?
Have
Yeah.
you not
I've
seen
never
Rocky?
seen any of the Rocky movies.
Okay.
It's not like I don't want to. It's just hasn't. No one's ever been like, "Do you want to watch Rocky?" And I'm
You have
like, "Sure."
so much work to do.
They're so
It's just it. I just kind of missed it, like when it was in its like at its time, and I never got. I just haven't come back to it. I want to see Rocky. I just haven't yet.
there are some that are not good. Like there are some of the
Well, of
Rocky
course,
movies.
There's like 8 of them, right? There's a bunch.
It's like just do 1 and
There's-
4.
Yeah, there's the original 5, and then there's Rocky Balboa, which is essentially 6, and then there's the Creed trilogy, which kind of spins off, and that's the one with Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. Like this feels like it could be like, and then I saw it and I was like, I love this. This is great. This is the perfect way to keep the franchise going. So, but
And he
I love
redeemed
Rocky.
himself from Fant Four Stick.
yeah.
I still haven't even seen that.
I haven't seen
probably
it.
Never
should.
do. Never, ever,
No,
ever do.
But is it fun bad or is it just bad?
It's just bad.
Yeah, okay,
like-
then I won't see it.
It is it's the kind of movie that like the whole time, like truly I think it might be the worst movie I have ever seen in the theater.
Oh man.
Like there are movies that I've seen that have been worse, but I waited
have
until
you
they were at
seen
home.
Morbius now? I haven't seen it, but
I have seen Morbius. That's actually what I was thinking of. Morbius is worse, but I waited until it was on Netflix. I didn't see it in the theater.
You didn't pay money to see it.
Yeah. Fant Four
and
Stick was.
Craven.
I haven't seen Craven, and I probably won't.
And
Even though it has Rhino,
Webb.
and maybe he keeps running in it. I don't know, but
He keeps. Is it Paul Giamatti this time?
no, it's some guy that turns into like his skin changes to like all Rhino. I don't know,
Oh, good.
but yeah, Fant Four Stick is just the worst. The only redeemable quality in that movie is that like they're in this like facility that's being built for them at the end, like the Baxter Building kind of a thing, and they're all standing there like overseeing the construction. And they're like, "Wow, can you believe this?" And Thing is like, "Yeah, it's fantastic." And Reed Richards goes and just slowly like turns to look at him with like this like, and he's like, "Say that again." He's like, "It's fantastic." Like,
I hate that.
it was
Oh,
like
you didn't
it's
think of the word fantastic.
it's like
We're not some kind of
It's-
Suicide Squad, are we?
it's so funny because it's like it's so on the nose, and it's like you can't have serious like it's one of those things that it's like I love it ironically because it's such a bad moment. The rest of the movie is just bad, but that moment at the end is genuinely funny to me because it's like you can tell that they thought that they were being funny, but like I love it because it's like this is so bad that it's funny, and like it's the bad joke that's so bad that it's funny.
Right, there's this one part on a TV show called The Good Place. Have you seen The Good Place, Lundy?
I've seen the first 2 seasons.
Oh, okay. So the
What
part
the
with
hell?
Ted, they're like trying to come up with a plan, and Ted Danson's character is like, no, let's think together. We'll brainstorm. We'll get some Chinese food, and we'll all like start brainstorming. And someone will say something innocuous, and I'll go, wait a minute, say that again.
That's
Oh,
and then it'll
Exactly.
be solved. Yeah.
yeah, that's exactly what happens at the end of that movie. It's like that was the first movie I've ever considered walking out of. And I saw Batman v Superman
wow.
in the theaters. Like
Oh,
Man,
that's
I
hard.
watched that at my friend's house, and I walked out of his living room. I was like, I don't want to be here anymore.
that like
there are a lot of movies that are bad, but you don't realize it until after the movie has rolled and you thought about it. And then there are movies that you know that are bad as you're watching it, and that's one. And you want to punch the screen. You're so
I
angry
just
at what
wanted it
they've
to
done.
stop. I just wanted it to stop happening the whole time it was there. It's like,
I-
just go away. I don't want it to be a movie anymore.
I went opening day to see Batman v Superman because it was one of those things that it was like,
Disappointing.
this looks terrible. I believe this will be terrible. I have to go see this train wreck. So I went in and it was a packed theater, and I was like audibly laughing and groaning the whole time because it was just
You're
like
pissing off everyone in that theater.
there were probably people that were really mad at me because like when it was the Martha scene, I was like, ugh,
Martha.
why'd you say that name?
did you say their name?
I don't know. Why is it none of your business? Like,
And then
I don't
Lois
want to
Lane-
fight you anymore. You said Martha.
See-
you said the word Martha. That's the word that calms me down.
When
It changed
Shan-
everything.
Oh man, if I could rewrite this scene just based off of this, like Shan, when you were like, "I don't want to fight you anymore," like I would, I wish that was the actual line, and I wish that Superman's response, him popping his head up and would be like, "Yeah, I wouldn't want to fight me neither." Just bringing it full circle back to bringing it full circle back to Spider-Man. Yeah, I
That's
wouldn't want to
great.
fight me neither.
Fight me neither.
Hey, what are you
The
doing
world's
up
best New York
there?
accent. Yeah.
My name's Bosa. I got you for 3 minutes.
3 minutes of playtime.
That's good stuff.
I love those movies. I'm going to watch those movies as soon as we're done recording this. I'm going to watch all 3 of them.
But
I only
Eric-
regret one of them.
Eric, we clearly need to write you like a slate of 80s action movies for you to go through.
Apparently, I missed the boat on a lot. I haven't seen Rambo yet either. I'll get on that.
Yeah,
one,
it's
too.
going to be
Yeah.
a lot of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Just
So much Arnold
So
Schwarzenegger.
I watched the first, what's the one? Terminator. I watched the first Terminator for the first time a few weeks ago.
It's
and
pretty good, but
it's
number
a pretty
2
good
is one
movie.
of the best movies I've ever seen.
Also, you straight up see Arnold Schwarzenegger's entire wiener in that movie. Did not know that. I was watching the
welcome.
movie and I was just like, huh, there's that. Like, wasn't ready for that to happen to me today. Like,
Yeah, and you
I
became
mean,
a
it's
man
sort
that
of from
day.
afar and it's fairly silhouetted, but it's not hidden at all. It's definitely all the way there.
America saw it as aspirational.
I don't know what is so, because it's like, obviously excessive amounts of nudity in movies I'm not a fan of that. It makes me a little uncomfortable, but it's like, I don't know why like male frontal nudity is so much more jarring than anything else in the movie. It's just like, oh, I was not expecting that to happen. Like,
And here's the thing. We show it. We show all of it.
the whole thing.
It goes back to The Office, full penetration, back to Fight Crime, full
This is
penetration.
It's Always Sunny quote, right?
And he just keeps doing that until the movie just sort of ends.
Yeah. Anyways,
it's so good.
all right,
It's Thunder Gun Express, and it's basically 80s action movies is what they're describing, and it's so good.
So you guys make me a list, and I'll get on that.
Yeah,
Make you
I
a
I
list
went
like
through
so
so many
Captain
80s
America.
phases.
Like, yeah, well, make me a Captain America list of all of the great movies that I missed. Yeah,
Oh my god.
yeah, I expected to. It sounds really great.
Okay.
All right, so let's get back to Spider-Man. We've got a few more story beats to cover before we're going to wrap it up tonight. So we're going to try to get through these. But so the next part is you have to, after you defeat Vulture and Electro, very fun boss fight. Really enjoy kind of fighting 2 supervillains at once. But then you have to go track down some other bad guys. You get a call from Yuri, or maybe, I don't remember exactly how you instigate, but you have to go find Scorpion. Oh, it's because of the map that was in Otto's secret lab area thing. And so you're like, Scorpion's going to go poison the reservoir. And so you go to the reservoir and you're like, where's Scorpion? He goes, right behind you. And then he stabs you with his scorpion tail. And then you start having crazy Spider-Man drug trips where you think the whole city is flooded with venom. And this part reminded me a lot of like the Scarecrow missions from the Arkham games. You guys played the Arkham games? I know you have, Shan. You played them, Lundy?
They're so great.
Yeah.
So
They're,
good.
it's like such a highlight of especially the first Arkham game, Arkham Asylum. The Scarecrow missions in that are awesome. So cool.
The
That's
third one
game-
can F
Those are
off,
games
but
we
the
should
first
definitely
two-
cover on this channel.
Yeah.
I really like the Arkham games.
The second one especially.
Oh, the second one is one of the best games ever made, just hands down. So, but yeah, I got really big Arkham vibes from this whole like swinging around the city with being hallucinogen. And there's parts where you like when you're about to get like the next little thing that you need to get to get the antidote for Spider-Man, where he'll kind of like go into his brain space and see crazy visions, and you're like swinging around and you get these like moments where Doc Ock is like spitting your worst fears at you, like, you failed me, I trusted you, you let me become this, and you know, all the like basically just Peter's worst thoughts and fears like being spouted at him in his mind. And so that's some fun moments for poor old Peter Parker as he's swinging to try to find an antidote. He's getting emotionally berated by everything in the world. So,
I need to clarify before I get canceled. The third Batman game is fantastic. I just hate the tank. All right, let's move on.
I'd agree with that. The tank is no. We could talk about it for a second. The tank is the most un-Batman. I don't know what they were thinking, because I love driving around in the Batmobile, and I think the idea of like solving puzzles and stuff with the Batmobile like that, I kind of liked that, like using it as a tool. But then they have like, it's like 40% of the game and side missions are tank missions where you're like in a tank and you're shooting things and blowing up drones with bullets and missiles and guns. And I was like, I think that if someone like made a list of activities like that Batman would conceivably do, and one of the activities was shoot things with a tank, I'd put that at the bottom of the list of things that Batman would do. It's just like, as a complete tonal shift and the opposite of a Batman activity. So I am on board with that, Shan. Yeah. I don't like the tank missions from a narrative perspective at all. And I think that even if there was any like gameplay fun to be had with them, they happen far too frequently. They wear out their welcome after a couple hours. There's way too many of them.
It's kludgy and it disrupts the pacing of the entire game. Yeah. All right.
So, Batman aside. So, Peter finally gets the antidote. He is able to go back to Doc Ock and his old workplace where he used to work with Doc Ock, and he cooks up a serum and cures himself, and then wakes up in his underpants, his Spider-Man branded underpants, but with his mask still on. So, at least he's
so
being
random.
Safe that
it's
way.
So weird, and it's just for like 5 seconds.
Yep. And I tell you what, every single time I play this game, after that part of the mission, I go into the menu and I equip the suit where it's just Spider-Man in his underpants. And then for the next like couple missions, that's how I do it, because I was like, you know what? I got to keep the narrative through line going. He woke up in his underpants. I'm going to make you fight some bad guys in your underpants. You just kind of have to deal with it, Peter. Like,
yeah, you've had worse. You've had Arnold Schwarzenegger's dong. So the Donginator.
Donginator. Gross. So after this, you get the Scorpion drug trip. Then you get another Miles stealth mission. Yay. So fun. This one's actually not so bad because there's some parts where you're running away from Rhino. So those are...
And he just keeps running.
He just keeps running.
See, it just gets funnier. That's the great part about this awful joke.
It's not even a joke. It's just words. And for some reason, we're laughing at them.
Forever.
He just keeps running. Much like how Rhino just keeps running. You just repeat the joke forever and Rhino keeps running. He never stops.
It's still not funny.
It never will be, but we'll always laugh. Oh man. So you have this little stealth mission where you're going to get some medicine for the people at Feast. And this is another time where I was like, with Miles, I was like, you've got a pretty good excuse to not like, the first time he like goes through a military checkpoint to get to work at Feast. And I was like, you know what? The whole, like, if you got to work and said, sorry, I'm late, I was stopped at a military checkpoint, I think that'd be acceptable. Like, they'd be like, oh yeah, those are no worries. And then this is another situation where it's like, if you go back to Feast and you're like, oh, I couldn't get the medicine. It was being guarded by an 800-pound rhinoceros man. Like, my bad. I think that they'd be like, yeah, that's a good excuse. You're off the hook. Like, but not Miles. He's just going for it. Just guns ablazing. He's got to get that medicine.
Well, and I think that does speak to his Spider-Man-ness, because it's like,
yeah.
He has every excuse, but he's like, no, people are counting on me. And so he does it. And I just love Miles.
I kid, but I agree. I do think that it does really reinforce this, like, people need help and I'm going to help them attitude that Miles has well before he's even Spider-Man. So it is a very exaggerated way to do that because, Rhino is a straight up murder machine, but I do think that it does speak to Miles' character and has that nice little bit of a insight into the kind of person he is.
Well, it also gives the clear delta between him and Peter Parker, which is he's very reckless. And it's kind of like who Peter Parker used to be, and who we see in the on-screen version, the Tom Holland version and stuff. When he's a kid, he's like this, but now we get it in the Miles version, and he's very matured in this game as Peter Parker.
Yeah. So this is not a super bad stealth mission. It has some nice little set pieces with the Rhino. It's still not as exciting as being Spider-Man, but as far as the stealth missions go as normal people, it's not so bad. I do think it's funny that there's one part where Scorpion, like Rhino is interrogating someone right as Miles is about to leave, and Scorpion like comes up and stabs the guy with his stinger, and then Miles is like, "Ooh, oh, I didn't need to see that. I got to get out of here," and like really freaked him out. But just right before that happened, Rhino threw a corpse in his direction that like almost hit him, like a human body. And Miles has walked through like a camp with like people holding guns and several dead bodies on the ground. He just like walks past him, but then Scorpion injects some guy with some venom, and he's like, "Oh, I gotta go! Oh, I'm gonna be sick! I can't believe I just saw that!" Like, it's like,
Well,
what's your threshold for what bothers you, Miles? Like, it's
Maybe
Well, he saw a bunch of people get blown up by Martin Lee's people.
yeah, and he saw that too. So
Maybe he
Scorpion
just has-
stabbing a guy. Yeah,
he just has an aversion to needles.
that's what it is. He doesn't like needles.
And Scorpion's tail is just a really big needle. He's like,
Yeah. You heard it here. That's the Lundy theory. I can get on board with that. Miles doesn't like needles. Makes sense. Yeah.
Also,
Which is
arachnophobia, fear of scorpions.
That's yeah.
I mean,
could be.
arachnophobia is spiders, right? Would there be a different word
it's
for
both.
scorpions?
Yeah, scorpions are arachnids.
Oh, because they are arachnids. Yep, that makes sense. All right,
Dumbass.
There you go.
Just
So,
kidding.
well, okay, my bad. I feel like that was a little disproportionate. Not everybody knows scorpions are arachnids, and I didn't know. I'm not going to lie and say I knew, and I forgot I didn't know that. That's new. I learned a new thing. Yeah. I was going to try to play it off cool and be like, I knew, I just forgot. I didn't know. All right. So you have this little stealth mission. You get away from Rhino. You're going to get the medicine back to May and everybody at Feast. And then Miles stops a mugger, which is another little nice Spider-Man moment. He sees this guy get beat up by two of the escapees from Rikers. And he squares his hips and he does what Peter taught him. He punches one guy in the face and lays him out. And then to the other guy, he goes, "Do you want a piece?" And the other guy is like, "Nope," and runs away. So good for you, Miles. Your first criminal beat up. You did it. Or no, he says, "You want a taste." That's what he says. He's like, "You want a taste?" And he goes, "You want a taste? I got to work on my fight banter." Like,
It is impressive that he was able to like just one punch knock that guy out. Like,
yeah, that takes a lot of strength. Like,
that's it's
Yeah.
good technique
That's-
will do that. Like
Black man
Just-
strength.
yeah, he's got those Miles Morales muscles, MMMs. Yeah.
It's got the frame.
So after you play as Miles for a minute, you stop the mugger and everything, and then you go back to controlling Peter, and you have to go and fight Rhino and Scorpion at the same time. And this is a fight, probably one of my favorites in the game, because Rhino and Scorpion the whole time are like just bickering at each other. Like, they sound kind of like a married couple. Like, just get him. He's moving. It's like, oh, he's moving too fast for you, or like, let me show you how a real man does it. And they're just like being a little sassy to each other, and it makes me laugh every time. They're just like, "You didn't get him? Oh, I can't believe you missed him." It's like, "I can't believe you missed him." And they're just like back and forth bickering at each other. I think it's adorable to watch these two like super powered grown men just like throwing shots at each other. It cracks me up.
Great chemistry.
Yeah, great chemistry. It makes for a very fun boss, and the boss fight is technically fun. It's fun because it's like there's two different strategies to how you take each of the Scorpion and Rhino down. Like for Rhino, you've got to knock heavy things on top of him to stun him, and with Scorpion, you have to web him up. But you have to be careful about the spacing with the other ones, because if you like start attacking Scorpion, then Rhino can kind of get a jump on you pretty easily, and vice versa. And so it's a fun kind of like ebb and flow, give and take, where you have to like look for openings and be like, "Oh, all right, Rhino's on the other side over here. Now's a good time for me to web up Scorpion and get a few hits in." And so it's a fun boss battle. I really like it.
Well, and I like the matchup that they did between like these two and then Vulture and Electro, so that you get the aerial fight and then you get this grounded fight, and and they're very dynamic pairings. And Sony has always had a hard-on for pairing villains together, mashing as many
especially in the movies. Yeah.
mashing as many villains as they possibly can into as little space as they possibly can. And it wasn't until this game that I realized that this is the first time it's ever worked, because a video game gives you 20 hours to make it work.
Give it some room to breathe.
Yeah. I wanted to point this out because I had realized even as a kid that watching Spider-Man 3, it was very obvious that they wrote the script and then they realized Amy Pascal and what's his name, Aviarid or something, they realized that they had to put Venom in after the script was written. And so Venom just is kind of like spliced into the movie at random points. And then he just like joins the movie at the climax. He doesn't, you can take him out of most of the movie and it would have no effect.
Yeah, he lifts right out.
But like,
it's not, yeah.
And then you see this, like, that trope forever afterwards. They try to put Venom into the first of every Spider-Man property that they possibly can. And so, of course, Venom is in this game. They can't not do it because they have a hard-on for him. They think that nobody will play Spider-Man if Venom... But he has to be. He has to be in it. Because nobody will play Spider-Man if Venom's not in it. That's what they think.
I mean, I kind of, not to defend them too much, but like, because Venom's in this only as like a little post-credit stinger. But like, it's, you can do Batman without the Joker, but the Joker is when Batman is at his best. He brings the best out of Batman in like those stories, and that's what Venom is to Spider-Man. Like, they've got
his
both
best
heroes.
foil.
Yeah, both heroes have great rogues
Goblin,
galleries.
I feel like.
Yeah. Like that. I agree. Green Goblin is more Joker-esque, but like, it's the kind of thing that I feel like out of the great rogues galleries, these are the ones that really you see great stories come with. And that's why there's so much popularity around these villains. Green Goblin and Venom being two of the top, which, there are some things, that it like, yeah, we get a little tiny tease of Venom in this game, but I also think we're getting a little bit, there's a couple of goblin-y things that have that show up in a
Norman's
chapter.
Always wearing a green suit.
He is.
Yeah.
And, and in a mission that's, I think, like, just right after this fight, I think, is that when
you go to the penthouse?
Yeah, there's definitely some goblin things lying around there.
Yeah. I'm just saying that they always forced it so hard that it didn't happen organically, and then they jumped the shark and then it failed. And now there's like a Venom trilogy, and they're all making so much stupid money, and I hate America for giving them money because I have to assume they're bad because I saw the first one and they had to have gotten worse.
They did.
I saw the trailer for the third one, and because just, sometimes you're on YouTube and videos happen to you. And I watched the trailer for the third one, and it was like Venom is doing like a jazzy dance with like Mrs. Chin in a very sparkly red dress, and then he turns a horse into Venom, and I was like, no part of me cares at all about any part of this movie. And Venom is one of my favorite villains, and I think that when we do finally cover Spider-Man 2 on this channel, because we'll have to, it's spectacular, but I won't talk about it too much here, but I love that game. I think it's fantastic, and I love that depiction of Venom. It's my favorite depiction of Venom ever.
Yeah.
They
I think finally did it right.
I think a big part of the reason why those Venom movies don't work is because they did
Hardy.
Venom and not Spider-Man. Like, you can't separate the two from each other. Like, if you do Venom, you have to have Spider-Man, and they didn't. And so it was like, But thankfully, it appears that the Sony villain universe is dead. They've had finally...
They only had to fail the last 4 movies to realize it was finally over.
They've had so many just massive... Like, I mean, Madam Web was a huge financial flop. I think Kraven was even bigger somehow. Like, these are just... They're losing money hand over fist. And so finally they're like, okay, we get it.
Maybe one more. Maybe one more.
Maybe this will be the one.
But then it'll be over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they've had the maybe one more mentality for like 4 movies now. So, but so I think that I guess this is a good time to. So you beat Rhino and Scorpion, and then you go to the penthouse and you play as Mary Jane in Norman's penthouse, and this is where you get some good kind of some little goblin-y things going on, like Lundy was talking about. But I like this area a lot. I want to ask you guys what you think about it, but first I want to point out the first time I played this Spider-Man game, I didn't have a PS4, and so I never played it on PS4. I bought a PS5 and I played the remastered version on PS5, like right when it came out. It was the first game I played on my PS5. And at the time, ray tracing was like the most exciting thing in the world. Having these beautiful ray traced reflections, just like I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I still think it's very cool, but like I was just completely enamored and tickled with all ray tracing stuff in games. And so when you walk into this penthouse and there's that like glossy stone flooring, and you can just like see the whole skyline and the windows ray traced on there, I was just like, the first time I played the game, I was like, oh, this is the most beautiful thing ever. I just it took my breath away. I was like, it looks amazing in here. This is the lighting and the ray tracing looks so good. And so that's visually, I really like this area. And it's probably my favorite MJ mission because I feel like you get the most interesting story beats here. So I don't know.
Yeah,
thoughts, guys? What do you like about this place? What do you not like?
It's not because of MJ. It's because the story really grows in this section, and it gets very interesting. And the Harry stuff, it's it's one of my favorite parts of the Spider-Man canon, and it's like every time it's been iterated on in film, it's been interesting, but I don't feel like we've ever seen it done perfectly because it's always fallen apart at the last mile. Because like the film just gets like killed on the last leg, and so it's like I just want to see it done perfectly from beginning to end. And so I love seeing them set it up and that they haven't failed yet, and so I'm just getting so excited, and I love how they're telling Harry's story. I loved the Europe trip twist, and I mean, it's all the same canon beats, but like I loved how they dressed it up.
Yeah, I like so I mean, I'm assuming everyone who's listening kind of knows the beats, but so Norman's wife dies of a genetic disorder,
neurodegenerative
disorder, and they find out that it's genetic, and Harry has it too, and so they start Oscorp, specifically Norman Osborn, start trying to develop a cure, and they're having a hard time. Harry kept this from his friends, Peter and MJ, who they grew up childhood friends, and they've kind of disguised this experimental treatment. Norman and his scientists have come up with an experimental treatment that they think will work. And so Harry has told his friends, like, oh, I'm going on a Europe trip and I won't be able to contact you guys while I'm over there, which is not a great cover because, they have phones in Europe, but whatever. So he's like, I'm going on a Europe trip. Don't talk to me until I'm back, I guess. And so, but really he's undergoing this experimental treatment that they've kind of uncovered. And so you get little nuggets and pieces of what's going on here. And it's interesting to see this from the perspective of MJ, who was Harry's childhood friend. And so it's like she's discovering this about her friend. And so it makes that kind of, that side of it really interesting to uncover from her perspective. I also like the little snarky comments she makes about Norman's house as you're walking through. She's like, ugh, Norman would have a pool. Like he's got a rooftop pool by his apartment. And I don't know if you guys like in Norman's bathroom, his bathtub is just like on a plinth in the middle of the room. Is that the most like bold placement for a bathtub? It's like on a pedestal, basically. It's like elevated from the rest of the room. And it's right in the middle.
A pedal
it's
stool.
Like a pedal stool. But it's like, that's a power thing for Norman, because it's like bathtub in the middle of it's like no one else is going to go into his bathroom, right? How many people are going into Norman's bathroom? But anyone who does is like, man, this guy, he's a cool, like, that's a power. I don't know why that feels like a power move to me, but it's
this like a
that's
Greek
an interesting
bath
placement for a
thing?
bathtub. You what?
Is this like a Greek bath thing?
I don't know, maybe.
Like an ancient design?
I don't know what Norman does in his private time, but I just sat there in his bathroom for a minute and being like, this is a weird bathroom. Just a huge bathtub in the middle. Anyways, I feel like I'm harping on this too much. Norman's a weirdo. I don't know what he does with his bathtub, but I don't like it. Why is it so tall? Why is there nothing around it? Yeah.
Yeah. Greek baths are placed right in the center of the room. I don't know why that was in my head.
Okay. So it's like he's being fancy. He's like,
It's a power
I'm
move.
fancy like a Greek man. Yeah.
Just pinky out fancy.
Yeah. Everyone knows that all of the fancy Greeks, they do the pinky out thing. And
They do the
have their
marble.
bathtubs
They
in the
do
middle
the
of the room.
bathtub
Yeah.
placement. He's a classical man.
He's a classical man. Exactly. So you go through and you find this information is MJ, and then you find a secret room with lots of hidden sneaky things. And this is where you start to see, like, you find a map basically that helps you determine like where Otto's primary target might be. And so that's where you kind of get that information. But it's also a room that's full of a bunch of like tanks and terrariums and things full of
What
spiders.
the hell is a terrarium? It's like an aquarium for lizards and snakes.
For lizards and
So
snakes.
like an aquarium.
Yeah.
That will not be coming into our house. It's an office quote. You wouldn't
Yeah,
understand.
from the office.
Yeah.
But
It's like
it's a
I
secret. You
pooched it
wouldn't
a little
understand.
bit. I said like an aquarium for lizards' sake. He says it's like a tank for lizards and snakes.
Yep.
I pooched it a little bit.
Anyways, so there's lots of terrariums and stuff with for spider, and there's a bunch of spiders in there. So you're like, oh, what's going on in here? And you see there's a little paper in Norman's living room about how he's like very interested in how Spider-Man got his powers. So you're like, it seems like there's maybe a shady part of Oscorp that's trying to figure out how Spider-Man got his powers. So
I think that the spiders also may have been part of the research into trying to cure Harry. Like, trying to find a way of like, hey, there's some sort of spider something or other, maybe Spider-Man, That's one of the things, because it's in that hidden lab
that
where
makes sense. Yeah.
Harry is. But there's also other things that I think are probably very unrelated to Harry, so we don't know. Because, I mean, you find the room because there's a very unfinished goblin-y type helmet on the desk that you put on, and it's like, oh, hey, there's a door behind this wall. And then when you go in
that
there...
was convenient. Yeah.
But I do think that, if it had some ears added on it, like the mouth part is kind of like a weird little crooked smile. Like it felt really goblin-y to me.
I did not even make that but you're right, it does kind of look goblin-y. I don't know why that didn't even sort of click in my brain.
Yeah, that to me was like, that was the first thing that I was like, oh, goblin. And then if you're looking around in the lab, there are some purple hand grenade prototypes that are laying on the desk there, and it was like, oh,
Those are straight up pumpkin bombs.
Yep, we're getting goblin at some point.
I think they kind of have to at this point.
Yeah,
they got to give us the goblin. Spider-Man 3. Yep. But so very cool. Lots of fun stuff to kind of uncover and explore. And so after MJ gets all of this information, she sneaks past all of the Sable guards who came up and escapes and gets this information to Peter, which leads to the final act, the big finale, the big cheese, all the tomatoes, the big battle, the coup de grace, the final punch down. Someone please stop me. Say anything, you guys.
No.
Just want me to keep going? All right. No, I'm not going to keep going. But yeah, so I think, I don't know, anything else you guys want to talk about? I think that's all the story beats right up until the
I forgot to
final-
ask you how
final
many
fight.
terraria did you see
Okay.
in...
Nope, I'm going to hang up right now. Yeah. This Aquaria, Terraria nonsense. I'm done with it, Shan. It's aquariums and terrariums. Even if it's not grammatically correct, that's the way that sounds right, and that's the way that it is.
They're both correct. I would not say Aquaria in real life, but I
Just
say
specifically
here.
to annoy me. Yeah. All right. Well, do we have any final thoughts about Spider-Man stuff? I guess up next is the finale. We said that this was going to be a shorter episode, and surprising no one, it's not. It's just as long as the others.
I found so many stupid things to say.
We talked about 80s movies. We talked about all sorts of stuff.
About
Yeah, I
Batman.
We talked about Batman. Talked about his stupid Arkham tank.
I will always find a way. Just like life in Jurassic Park movies.
If you
Life
ever are
finds
hosting
a
a
way.
podcast and you want to keep it to a certain time limit, you don't invite Shan because he finds a way to drive the
derail
conversa-
it.
to derail it and find the tangent.
How many references? I dropped so many references in this one.
We should
This
keep
is
track.
a good
We'll
one.
write them all down. That's what you need to do. Keep a tally next to your desk, and every time you make a reference, you can make a little tally.
Yeah, well, I'm proud of this one.
Yeah, this was a good one. I think we had a great time.
Well done.
Well, I'm done. Do you want me to take it out, or do you want to take it out? Should Lundy take us out? Lundy's never taken us out before.
I'm just
Take
a
us
guest.
out. Yeah, I guess Lundy doesn't have to take us out.
I mean, if you want me to, I can
Yeah,
sign
do
off.
it. Tell everyone to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff.
All right, well, that's it for the Sad Dad Games podcast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. You can find us find them, I'm just a guest, on YouTube, as well as Apple and Spotify, or wherever else you get your podcasts. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Lundy, that was wonderful. Thank you so much for taking
Yeah.
us out. I really
And
enjoyed
also,
It's almost like I've
Listen
done it
to
professionally
Eric's-
before.
that. Yeah.
also watch Eric's Indie Corners.
Oh, right,
Eric's-
I forgot about that.
You forgot Eric's Indie Corner. Come
Sorry,
on,
I don't
man.
have it written
Re-
down. I don't do this
Really?
often.
We need to go to Eric's Indie Corners and tell them to watch this show because that one's so much more popular.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. People like me, I guess. I'm just really charismatic and cool, and I always come in with really high energy. So, yeah.
Although they give you a lot more, they give you nastier comments there, like, "Hey,
Well,
make it better."
it's because I mess things up and I get things wrong. So I had someone correct me in the comments, which is fine. Correct. If I say things wrong, let me know. Like I got the name of a composer wrong. I said David, and he was like, it's Danny, and I looked it up, and he was right. And I was like, oh, thank you. He should get proper credit. Thank you for my bad. Lo.
Yeah, whereas I set the stage for these episodes to have no factual basis, and so people don't expect it.
Yeah, maybe that's what I need to start doing. I won't credit anybody. I'll just spout what I feel.
Yeah.
Anyways, Lundy already took us out. Why are we still talking? Thanks for listening, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Outro. Bleep-a-doof, bleep-a-deep, bloop-a-dee-blow.